Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of my top waiver wire targets and streamable defenses for Week 7. Even though it wasn't my fault, I do apologize. I was not able to get any of my video content out last week. For those that are unaware, I live in Tampa. I was in an evacuation zone. So I went and stayed with my friend Eric. So shout out to Eric and Nat for letting me stay with them during the hurricane. And then when I got back up here to Tampa, unfortunately I didn't have any power. I was hoping to be able to do my start-sit video. I didn't get my power back until yesterday, which I'm glad I did because I was kind of wondering if I was going to get it back so I could do the waiver wire targets and streamable defenses. But yeah, you will be getting these videos this week. As always, guys, I'm going to start with my top waiver wire targets. Just in case I got a first-time listener listening to this today, these waiver wire targets, they do have to have at least 50% roster availability, so there's a good chance that they are available out there in your league. My quarterback out of the week, I'm going to go with the rookie that just made his first start, Drake May. He's available in 94% of the leagues right now. In his first start against that Texans defense, he threw for 243 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And what I like about Drake is he's an athletic quarterback, so he can run the ball. He actually had 5 rushes for 38 yards. And the reason why I like him just as a add this week, I think you can even, like, if you need a sneaky play, say you are a Dak Prescott manager who's on a bye, a Caleb Williams manager on a bye, and you're looking to pick up somebody off the waivers to start this week, he's going against or even like if you've been starting Justin Fields as of late and there's this whole Russell Wilson might be starting on Sunday night, you could maybe take a chance on Drake May. He's going against the Jacksonville Jaguars in that London matchup, who are allowing the most points per game to fantasy quarterbacks this season. Now, if you maybe don't like your quarterback, I kind of view Drake right now as a guy to add on your bench if you're not a big fan of your quarterback situation, and seeing if he can continue this type of production as a fantasy quarterback. And I think there's a chance that he will, especially if this Patriots defense played like it did this past weekend and he's having to throw the ball a lot. That means he'll be able to put up the yards and potentially get you those touchdowns. And the Patriots offensive line is not that great, so he's going to have to run and extend plays with his legs, which can give him a higher floor as a fantasy quarterback. So that's why he is my top quarterback out of the week. My running back out of the week, I'm going to go with Tyrone Tracy, the rookie running back for the Giants. He is available in 55% of the leagues right now. This past weekend, he had 17 rushes for 50 yards and a touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for 57 yards on 6 total targets. Now, this is obviously because Devin Singletary has not played the last 2 weeks. And each of those games, he's touched the ball at least 19 times. And now this week, they are going against the Eagles defense, who is more, they're like in the middle of the pack as far as points per game against the running back position. How I view Tracy right now is I think he's definitely playable if Singletary cannot play this week. But if Singletary's back, they're going to get Singletary back in the lineup. But I think Tracy has shown enough where he deserves more touches than what he was getting when Singletary was healthy. And then we're just going to have to see how the situation plays out going forward. But if Singletary gets hurt again, you're talking about a low-end RB2 that can give you these high-end weeks because the amount of touches that he has gotten so far when Singletary is out of the lineup. My wide receiver ad of the week, I do like Josh Downs. He's available in 52% of the leagues right now. This past weekend, he had 7 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets. And each of the last 3 games that he has gotten at least 9 targets over the last 3 weeks. Now, this week, technically on paper, he draws a tough matchup against the Dolphins defense, who are allowing the 3rd fewest points per game to the wide receiver position. But I still think he's playable because the reason why it's not because their defense is shutting down wide receivers. It's just because teams can run the ball on Miami, so they don't have to pass the ball. So that's why there hasn't been a lot of fantasy production. But I still think he's trustworthy just because he's gotten at least 9+ targets in the last 3 weeks. And Shane Steichen has really hyped him up, and he has even though it's like kind of a crowded wide receiver room, with Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., even Adonai Mitchell gets some play. He has a specific role in the offense where I think you could trust him in your lineups, especially when the matchup is right. My tight end out of the week, this is a guy I've mentioned, I think, twice so far this season, and it's just because I like the amount of targets that he's getting, and he's playing in one of the best offenses in the league right now. That's Cade Otton, the Bucks tight end. He's available in 64% of the leagues. This past weekend, his stats might not blow you out of the water. He only had 2 receptions for 15 yards, but he did get a touchdown. Now, he actually had 6 targets, so you would like to think that he would have had a higher production as far as receptions and yards if Baker and him were able to connect on more of those 6 targets. Now, he's gotten at least 6 plus targets in 3 of the last 4 games, and then he does have a sneaky good matchup if you wanted to put him in your lineup this week, going against the Ravens next Monday night, and they are allowing the 8th most points per game to the tight end position. My flex out of the week, can't believe I'm saying this, another Patriots offensive player. I think that's worth an add, at least to your bench, and seeing how the situation plays out in New England. I like Demario Douglas, the wide receiver for New England. He's available in 93% of the leagues right now, and his first action with Drake May, he had 6 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown on 9 total targets. He's gotten exactly 9 targets in 3 of the last 4 games he's played in, and he actually has a great matchup if you need to slide somebody into your lineup at the wide receiver position as a sneaky play. He's going against that Jaguars defense, who has allowed the 2nd most points per game to wide receivers this year. So if you're still dealing with wide receiver injuries, or if you just need some depth options, I would at least get him on your bench. And then if him and Drake May could show some chemistry and he keeps on seeing 9 targets a game, you're talking about a guy that you can start maybe putting in your lineup and start to trust him going forward. So yeah, those are my waiver wire targets of the week. Moving into the top streamable defenses of week 7. Again, just in case I have any first-time listeners, these defenses do have to have at least 50% roster availability, so there's a good chance they're available for you. And as I like to remind people, streaming defense is a risky business. Sometimes it works out for you, sometimes you get on the low end of things, but I always like to take the risk because I try to get as many points as I can from my streaming defenses. So going off with my top streaming defense of the week, I'm going to go with the Bengals against the Browns. The Bengals are available in 84% of the leagues. The Browns offense has been one of the worst offensive units in the league. They just traded Amari Cooper to the Bills today, so they are missing their best wide receiver this week, and they're going against this Browns offense who has allowed the most sacks in the NFL. So I like the chance that Trey Hendrickson is going to be putting pressure on Deshaun Watson often, and hopefully not only he can get that pressure turned into sacks, but that pressure turns into forced throws, which can turn into potential picks or even forced fumbles, so there's their turnover opportunity. And I do think they have a high floor as well, because the Browns are only scoring 15.8 points per game this season. That is the 3rd fewest in the NFL. Moving into my second streaming defense of the week, I'm going to go with the Jaguars against the Patriots. The Jaguars are available in 96% of the leagues right now. Now, this is a strictly high-risk, high-reward play, meaning this Jaguars defense, I'm not saying you could trust them, right? They're talking about potentially like players giving up, right, in that locker room. So, but when you look at the what's on paper and what the New England offense basically has been for most of the season, they have allowed the 2nd most sacks in the NFL because they're, like I mentioned with Drake May, the line is pretty bad. They are tied for the 5th most giveaways, and they're only scoring 13.8 points per game, which is the 2nd fewest in the NFL. And then obviously this is Drake May he's still a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks are prone to making mistakes. Like I mentioned, he threw 2 picks in his first start, so there's a potential for those turnover opportunities. And this is Drake May's 2nd start. This is going to be in London, so we don't know how he's going to handle his 2nd start traveling internationally and how he's going to play. So again, this is a high risk, high reward play. So if you don't get a Bengals defense, you can always roll the dice on the Jaguars defense this week. My number 3 streaming defense, I'm going to go with the Commanders against the Panthers. The Commanders are available in 96% of the leagues right now. Though this is a home game for Washington, so I like to factor that in. Then they're just going against this Panthers offense, who has been very inconsistent this season, even when Andy Dalton kind of provided a little bit of a spark 2 or 3 weeks ago, but that whole thing is kind of coming back down to earth for Carolina. And then when you look at Carolina, they are tied for the third most giveaways this season. So there's a potential for turnovers. And anytime there's potential for turnovers, you hope a fumble recovery or interception can turn into a touchdown for your streaming defense. And then the Panthers are only scoring 17.2 points per game. That's the 5th fewest in the NFL, which gives you a little bit of a higher floor as a streaming defense this week. My number 4 streaming defense, I'm going to go with the Rams against the Raiders. The Rams are available in 98% of the leagues right now. Now, this is technically a home game for the Rams, but just how things work out for the Rams at home. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a Raiders-dominated crowd, so I don't know if you really want to factor that in too much, but they get to be comfortable being at home, being in a stadium they are used to playing in, so I do kind of factor that in. But then they're going against this Raiders offense who just traded away Devontae Adams to the Jets, so they're missing their best wide receiver. The Raiders have allowed the 5th most sacks in the NFL, so you're hoping maybe like their rookie Jared Verse can get some pressure on Aiden O'Connell and get those sacks and maybe turn those pressures into turnovers. And speaking of turnovers, the Raiders have the most giveaways this season, so there's a high potential that they can be turning the ball over. I think this is because the Rams defense hasn't been that great. I do kind of view this as a high risk, high reward play, but you got to like that the fact that the Raiders have the most giveaways in the NFL and they have the 5th most sacks allowed. So you like the sack and turnover potential for the Rams if you wanted to stream them this week. My last streaming defense of the week, I am going to go with the Saints against the Broncos. The Saints are available in 66% of the leagues right now. This is a Thursday night game, so if you did want to stream the Saints defense, you do need to get their defense in the next day and a half or 2 days, based on whenever you listen to this. Now, why I like them? This is a home game for the Saints. The Saints defense typically plays pretty well at home, but they play that high potent Bucks offense. Like I mentioned earlier, they've been one of the best offenses in the league this year. And then so it's a home game for the Saints, and then they're the Saints have the 3rd most takeaways this season. So their defense has been very good at getting their ball in the hands, and you can hopefully maybe Bo Nix can throw a pick and you get a pick 6 or something like that. This is another high risk, high reward play. A lot of high risk, high reward plays this week, just based on what we have in the matchups this week and what was available for my criteria of having at least 50% availability in the leagues. So yeah, those are my top waiver wire targets and streaming defenses for week 7 of the NFL season. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe, or follow me on all my social media platforms. I'm on YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram. I got a link tree on my X account if you want to click on that to follow me on all my platforms. You guys will be getting my start sits tomorrow night. So I'll see you guys then. Peace out. Talk to you soon.